Hello and welcome to the very first Quest for Success Meet the Trainer. This is episode number one, and I am delighted today to introduce you to Rod Harlow. Rod is a master trainer of NLP and he works out of Bolton in the UK, and his company is New Perspective NLP. So, welcome, Rod. You're a great friend of Quest for Success and a great friend to me too. So, welcome. It's great to have you here. And everybody out there is interested in what's it like to be a trainer of NLP and what motivates people to actually take that journey. So, you're here today, Rod, to share a little bit about your journey, your personal journey, where you came from, where you started, and the outcome of that journey. So, we'd love to hear from you. What first pulled you towards NLP? Where did you find it? Because, NLP, what's that? Neuro-linguistic programming. Where did you first find it?
Hi, Christine. Yeah. My background was in the National Health Service, the NHS, and I was in a comfortable job. I was in the area of learning and development. And that was very much, I think, part of my career all the way up to the point of the NHS and then at that point after.
So very much a people role.
Yeah, helping people to develop and help them to go further. Um, and as part of my role, I became part of a first cohort at the NHS trust I was working at to become a coach, to train as a coach. And of course, the NHS is a little further behind other progressive companies. So we did get there, and it was great to go on the training. I wasn't quite sure what it was about. And what I quickly realized was that through coaching, I started to learn more about myself. I started to explore parts of me I hadn't explored before. And so I started to get really curious about myself and kind of how I operated.
Yeah, it's one of those amazing things, isn't it? That when you coach somebody else, you learn so much about yourself as well in that process. Yeah.
Yeah, it was huge. And after that training, it was great because I felt such an affinity with coaching and working with others. So coaching just kind of became like a coat I put on and it wasn't going to come off, I realized.
So was that part of like your everyday day job that you were coaching colleagues, peers, subordinates within your role?
Absolutely. I was so lucky to be able to have it as part of my job. I chose to make it even more part of my job because I enjoyed it so much. And in fact, that's where I started to find the most enjoyment and satisfaction in the day job.
Yeah. So where did NLP come into that?
Well, I had a wonderful manager at the time, and I always remember her saying to me, "Well, if you really want to get into coaching, you want to go deeper into coaching, then you need to have a look at NLP." And I said, "What's NLP?" And she said, "Neuro linguistic programming." And I said, "What's that?" Because I still had no idea. And then she said, "Well, go find out." And I did. I went on a taster half day as part of the NHS. And I went in with a lot of questions and I walked out with even more. My curiosity had just increased and increased. I was like, what the heck is this? So that back then, that was the spark, absolutely.
So when did you actually dip your toe in and actually do a practitioner training? What prompted that?
Yeah, well, it kind of became on my horizon, NLP, after that half day course. And so I kept my eyes open for the training. And then I remember an opportunity came up where another trust was hosting NLP practitioner training, and it was aimed at NHS staff members. So I applied for it because I thought, "Ooh, it's not so far away." It was in Salford. It's not so far away. I could do this. And so I filled out the various registrations, and lo and behold, I got a place. Wow. And in the run up to that, stuff started to happen. So I went on another coaching course, and this was all about the Gestalt at the time. So I started to find out even more about myself. I always remember on that course having like, it was like a feeling or almost like a vision in some way that I absolutely knew without certainty there was more to me. And I've never forgotten that. It was at that point I knew there was more ahead. So everything started to fall into place. And then, of course, I got onto the course itself for the practitioner. And that's where I met a trainer who was called Christine, and that was you.
Yeah, that's where we met. Yeah. It
Absolutely.
feels like a long time ago now.
It was. And it was also winter. I always remember that. And yeah, it was a lovely time of year.
Winter in Salford. Yeah.
Yeah, dark, cold. Yeah.
So once you'd taken your practitioner training, where did that lead you? What happened next?
I was absolutely blown by it because I thought I knew a bit, being a sort of qualified coach by that point, and I thought I knew what I was doing with coaching. And of course, no, not at all. I felt I'd gone from almost like 2D into 3D, three-dimensional coaching at the time. And I realized there was this amazing, like, powerful set of skills and thinking and an approach to work with people in such a different way in a coaching context. So I remember going away from that course absolutely thrilled and excited to work with people using my knowledge. And I suppose I also went away with a much deeper introspection of myself once more, and suddenly realizing that, God, I can do this, and I can do more. So it set me off on one heck of a journey.
What do you think it is? I mean, I'm really curious. I love what you said there about transforming everything from 2D to 3D
Mm.
through NLP. What do you think it is about NLP that causes that sudden illumination and clarity?
I think it's thinking about the illumination and clarity. It's like a change of perspective. It's like when everything kind of comes into focus, when it's been hazy. And I think it's a bit like realizing, oh, that's for me. That's what I can do. And that started to open myself, I guess, to understanding my meaning and purpose. And that's what NLP allowed me to do. And as I grasped hold of that, I realized up to that point, I hadn't found meaning and purpose. That was the cause of my dissatisfaction in the day to day job.
Right. So having got clarity and focus and everything lighting up for you, how did you manage that transition from being a full-time employee into what you're doing now, running a successful NLP business? What was that transition like?
It was one which I worked it out as I went along. It was incredible. It was exciting. It was bumpy, and like any transition, I think it's never smooth. I mean, you can plan it all you like. It is never going to be smooth. So after practitioner training, I was back in the day job, and I was having great satisfaction working with people, exploring using NLP as part of a coaching approach. And I felt myself growing in appreciation of NLP. And also that curiosity never went, it just got deeper and deeper. I always describe NLP as a bit like an iceberg. And the wonderful thing about an iceberg is, whilst you do see the surface, there's so much more underneath, and it's never ending, it feels. And that's what's so great about NLP. It is never ending. You never get to the bottom of the iceberg. So I used as much of NLP as I could do. I got the practice, I gained in confidence, which was really important. And then it got to a point where I realized there is more. And I always remembered on your training, you mentioned master practitioner. And when I completed practitioner, I thought, oh no, I need to go away and use this. There's no way I'm going to think about that. Well, after a while of using it, I did. And I started to think more and more about master practitioner and whether that was an option for myself. And I remember we had some conversations along the way. And I guess it's when you feel ready, you know it in yourself when you feel ready to take that next step up. And I think I came into master practitioner changed, certainly different in my outlook and perspective, both on NLP and myself, more proficient and ready to grasp what master practitioner had to offer. And there was a lot.
Yeah, it's quite a big step change, isn't it, from practitioner to master practitioner?
Yeah, I would absolutely say that in a really good way. It's powerful. It's going to push you out your comfort. It pushed me out my comfort zone even more. And yeah, an incredible training and journey, and working with some really interesting other master practitioners as well at the time.
Yeah. So when you made that transition, did you jump straight out of your full-time job into your business? How did you handle that?
Yeah, I around master practitioner training, I was getting a real appreciation of NLP is also about me. It's not just in terms of giving back to the organization in my coaching time. So I started to think about working with clients on my own privately. I wanted to do something for myself rather than anyone else. So I started to talk to friends and people I knew, mention what I was doing. And then an opportunity came along where someone's son had a problem and wanted some help with it. And that he became my first client. And I always remember I hired in the local area someone's hut in their back garden, which she used for acupuncture. And so I went and viewed this hut, and I had it by the hour. And so I saw my first client in this hut in the back of someone's garden, which was, everything to me. And I'll never forget the moment when that client paid me in money, in real cash at the time. And it was the most incredible feeling I think I'd ever had up to that point in terms of value. I valued that so much more. And I was on a salary. I saw numbers coming into the bank account every month. Oh my God, that paled into significance to that first payment by the client. And so I worked at weekends. I grew from strength to strength in that respect. I grew the business slowly. I absolutely loved working with clients just for myself. So even though, I was working 5 days a week full time, I then worked weekends seeing clients. I felt the energy, I felt the focus, and I just really enjoyed myself. And so from then on, I started to put more and more time into what I was doing at weekends and realized I'd like to grow this some more. And as a result of that, I started to think about maybe reducing my hours in the day job and growing the business to put more time into the business. So I applied to reduce my hours. And that was a huge, big deal for me, because that was the start of, I think, a whole process from then on in believing in myself and putting my trust into me and what I was doing, and stepping forward as a master coach at the time.
So finally, after growing your business and working in your day job, you finally took the step and created the business and stepped into it full time. So
Well, I went from the part-time work in the NHS, which was challenging, and I also knew as soon as I'd put the request in and it got accepted that going part-time, reducing my hours, was not permanent in any way. I could not carry on in the role doing that. It would be impossible to juggle those two areas in my working life. So I realised at some point I would be leaving the part time role and growing the business full time. As a result of that, I realised in order to do that, I would need to go on to trainers training.
wow, okay. So, leaving a salaried job is quite a big deal for a lot of people. It's a big step to take. And I've heard these stories many times with many of the people that I've worked with. And I love to ask them, did you ever regret that decision?
No, and even when I did leave, and I planned the leave, the exit, I actually went fully self employed in April 2020, which was the first kind of proper month of COVID, and Bolton went into full lockdown. So if there was ever a time to
Tricky
not go
time.
fully self employed, that was it.
That was it. And isn't it incredible that, you stuck with it and you inserted the determination that you've always had into that business to keep it running, even in those really difficult circumstances.
In a way, it was the best time to do it because it was the most challenging,
Mm.
and you learn to float, so to speak. You learn to swim rather than sink. And so I learned a lot about myself and some really hard lessons around business, growing a business, and ultimately how I managed myself and my state during that time. So, in a way, it was absolutely the making of me.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's such an inspiring story. And so you started your business as a coaching business, an NLP coaching business with
Mm.
hypnotherapy as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm wondering now, what was it that had you make that decision to actually become an NLP trainer? What was
Mm.
important there for you?
Yeah, it was a growing realization and appreciation of there was a couple of things. One was to be a viable business. There is only so much time I could put in to the business in terms of working with clients. And from a coaching perspective, there's only so many clients I could see a day.
Yeah,
And if one started to add up the numbers relating to so many clients one can see per day, days per week, that means there was an actual kind of ceiling or limit on income.
yeah,
Now, I think the other part of this was my background was also training, and I ran leadership management development training in the NHS. And I loved training. I loved working with groups. And so there was another part of me, the training part of me, which needed to be satisfied. The coaching part was fine. The training part needed some satisfaction. So I viewed trainers training as the opportunity to gain the skills to be a trainer of NLP, and then I would have the best of both worlds. I would get the coaching and I'd get the training.
yeah.
And so that was the other reason that I thought, yeah, if I'm going to make this business viable, I'm going to make it full time, I'm going to make it work. I want to be able to not only coach people, I want to be able to train people in NLP.
Yeah. So once you'd graduated from NLP trainers training, what did that do for your business? What did you notice as you started to insert, training practitioner, master practitioner into your service portfolio in your business? What difference did it make?
Yeah, it was like a surge in interest, a surge in awareness of people I was communicating with, my audience. And suddenly it was almost like as if it was natural. Oh, of course, yes, Rod offers training in NLP as well. Well, Rod was still getting used to the idea that he was a trainer of NLP. It was like, really? Oh, wow. Okay. And so building up to that first training was really something in terms of getting my mindset straight and being Rod the trainer, and and then of course getting hugely excited about running my first practitioner training with my first students. Oh my God! I mean, that was such a big deal at the time, and I absolutely remember that because that first training was the month as we were going into lockdown, actually. And when we run practitioner trainers, it feels like you go into a cocoon away from the outside world. And so we were there in the training room, working away, gradually snippets of news coming in about lockdown. And so when we all emerged from the training, and it was an amazing experience for myself and the students, and suddenly the world was different in so many ways. So for the students, the world was different in terms of their new skills, their ways of thinking, their relationship with NLP. And yeah, the world had really changed in loads of ways.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm guessing that, you saw quite a big surge in income as well, removing that glass ceiling that was there from the amount of
Yeah,
hours that you could work with one-to-one, leveraging that one-to-one work to one-to-many.
yeah.
I, I'm guessing, you found some freedom both financially and in time availability by making that shift.
Yeah, it was amazing. Suddenly it was going from one league to another league. It was such a step up. And it made me realize, wow, there is so much more I can do with this in terms of the product of training and working with others to help them as become trainers of become practitioners of NLP. And it was as if, like, the goalpost had just suddenly melted away, and wow, oh, everything is now available. Everything is on the table now, and I can absolutely have a piece of this, and make it my occupation, my vocation in my life, and it's what I absolutely adore doing. And I think all the way up to this point, I've been searching through careers in terms of what I was good at, what I felt I could do competently, and what I could absolutely get huge satisfaction from, and I'd absolutely found it.
Yeah, and after all these years, because you've been running a successful NLP training business for many years now, it's so warming to still hear the passion in your voice for what you do. Because you've been training NLP practitioner and master practitioner for a lot of time now, and you've graduated a lot of students.
Mm.
I know that you supervise and mentor those students now so that they can take their own journeys. And after all of that, you still have that fire and passion to do even more. And now, of course, you're a master trainer, which means that you can now train trainers in your business. I'm just curious, Rod, what motivated you to take that journey towards master trainer? Because it's not a small undertaking, it's a 5-year program, and you're constantly being assessed, given feedback on how you're growing, how your business is growing, how your students are growing. So you are under a microscope for a number of years. What motivated you to take that on?
I wanted more for myself, and to me, it actually felt a more natural step. Of all the steps, that was probably the easiest in a way. I I was absolutely in touch with my potential, what I could handle, and where I wanted to go. So I saw the master training program much more as a support mechanism for me to accelerate me and my business through the next 5 years. And I was acutely aware that, with businesses, the first 5 years are absolutely crucial. It's a really, big deal. So to take advantage, I felt, of the help, support, advice, and guidance as part of master trainer from yourself. That's what I actually needed. I needed someone who had already learned the lessons, had been there, and someone who'd obviously in my eyes extremely successful and made it. So I wanted to learn more from that person, from yourself, in order to help me grow my business. So it was, as I say, it was quite a natural step forward, and fine ongoing assessment. It wasn't intrusive. It didn't, to me, it didn't feel like I was under the microscope. I appreciated hugely the supervision, the value. And for me, I always knew the business side was my weakness, because my career hadn't involved running a business particularly. So I needed that. And so, yeah, it was fairly straightforward in terms of the decision. And then the experience whilst on the program was fantastic. It was challenging at times, obviously, expected that. And yeah, once again, the comfort zone was left far, far, far behind. And I think all the way up to now, even, comfort zones come and go. They're transient. They're never a place to reside in, so to speak. And I say that to my students quite happily. I think it's good to always realize that.
Yeah. And to keep that enthusiasm going for, that period of the master trainer program is something that only people who are truly passionate about
Mm,
their business, their role, about NLP in general, can accomplish really well.
yeah.
And what I'm thinking is, we collectively, all the trainers that we know, all the practitioners and master practitioners that we know, for me, we are responsible now for taking NLP into the future
Mm,
in a contemporary way, in a way that fits the modern world, because the world has changed substantially and is changing very rapidly,
mm,
in terms of culture, in terms of thinking, in terms of energy, in terms of technology.
mm,
So it's so important that you and I and all the other trainers that we know, we keep NLP at the forefront of all the modern day changes that are happening, to keep it relevant, to keep it practical, which is one of
mm,
the key things that you and I in the school of NLP that we train, we focus in on that. It's got to be practical. It's got to be everyday useful rather than just theoretical and, one of these books that you stick on the shelf and you never open them again. How are you kind of taking that modern view of NLP in order to make sure that your students are always getting something that's kind of current? What are your thoughts
mm.
on that?
Yeah, it's something I hold very close to my heart. Very much part of my passion. I'm almost have a mantra, I feel, about demonstrating the application and the integration of NLP into our day-to-day living. It's so important, because like you say, the last thing we want to do is end up putting a manual on a shelf. That's never what NLP is about. So how we interact with the day to day, I think, is hugely important, because NLP is, it's kind of like that resource inside of us, and it's something that we can then go to whenever we need to. Um, for example, I mean, yesterday was Pancake Day, Shrove Tuesday. And being a keen cook that I am, I decided I'm going to make pancakes. Except I made oat pancakes last night, and
Oh,
oats. oat flour is very, very delicate compared to normal flour when you make a pancake. And so I had to, change my response to the oat flour. And going through the challenges that presented reminded me, funnily enough, of a couple of presuppositions from NLP. And so immediately today, I've been doing a post on social media about it. Uh,
You didn't throw the frying pan out of the window. You persevered.
no, no. I persevered, and believe me, there is no failure. There is only feedback, and my oat flour absolutely gave me lots and lots of feedback, I have to say. And it just amuses me how in the day-to-day moments, NLP is so valid. As you know, I did a dancing challenge and learned to dance ballroom and Latin for a Strictly event at the hospice. So I used all my knowledge of NLP to learn how to dance. So I think the relevance of NLP is it's not just in work, it's not just in the office, it's not just in coaching conversations, and it's not just in a training room either. It's in how you hold yourself, how you handle yourself, and the relationship you have with yourself, because life out there is absolutely full of challenge. So the best thing I think from NLP is knowing I've got all that I need to be able to deal with those challenges as and when they happen.
Yeah, and they come in all sorts of shapes, don't they? Big challenges, small challenges, challenges you didn't expect, challenges you anticipated might be coming along. And you're so right, all the learning and the thinking behind NLP allows you to have really excellent coping strategies and a level of resilience as well, to cope with all the changes of modern life. Yeah.
Yeah, I always say to my students, when it all starts to go downhill, when it pivots, then that's when you really appreciate NLP. It's for
Yeah.
those hugely unexpected moments as well as the expected.
It's so true.
Mm.
So, Rod, with your journey, which you've so eloquently shared with us today, what advice would you give to maybe NLP coaches who are out there and they're ready to take that next step? They're ready to scale up their business and they're not quite sure how to go about it.
First and foremost, I'd say realization that there's more to you than you already are aware of. So think big and really start to connect to the resources that you have, believe in yourself. And in short, the way to scale up your business as a successful coach, and those who've done their master practitioner will be familiar with modeling. And of course, the ultimate in terms of modeling is to be able to train others. And, you know, every coach, a good, solid NLP coach who absolutely loves what they do, appreciates it, they can train others. They have their style, they'll have their passion, they'll have what makes them unique, and that'll add into a fantastic mix of training others. So yeah, I think the next step as a coach is certainly train others in NLP. It's one heck of a journey.
Yeah. So attend trainers training, get your training certification, and then you can train practitioners and master practitioners and support their journey.
Yeah, it's a whole new chapter. So yeah, it's a doorway, and I would suggest to those thinking about it, absolutely kick in that door because it's there for you, and doors don't last forever.
Wise words. Okay, Rod, thank you so much for chatting with me today. I have really enjoyed it. And everybody, look out for the next episode where you can meet another NLP trainer. So, goodbye for now.